to our snowshoeing pre-competition webinar. I think I've got the date correct. Today is February 16th, 2017. We are, I don't know, 11 days away from our competition, so it gives us plenty of time to wish for cold weather and have snow for a meaningful competition. That was the welcome and the introductions. Here's the agenda for this evening. I will accept questions during, as we go through the presentation. I don't think there's too much material here that most of you haven't seen before, but there is another webinar stacked up behind this at 8 o'clock, so we're going to move through this relatively quickly. Our snowshoe competition team, we were a little shorthanded at the time trials last week, but we will have a full complement of experienced management team folks. One person's name who you may recognize, who has not been at Snowshoe and was on staff in the past, Kelly Cox. She had planned to be at time trials, but unfortunately she was sick that weekend, but she will be there as an additional person with lots of Special Olympics Maryland experience. Dave Gill and Ken McLaughlin have been doing the starting and the finish line for at least 5 or 6 years. So we have our team back. Here is a tentative schedule of our events. Our snowshoeing events are over in the right-hand column in blue. There's no significant difference than what we've done in the past, other than we have 5 athletes who will be running the 1,600-meter race on Monday. That will be our first event to kick off our snowshoeing event. So what we did, rather than back everybody up, we moved the 1,600 to 115. In the past, we've been kicking off the other events, the 100 meters at 130. Which we will do again this year. The other change or difference this year, we do not have any entrants in the 4x400 relay, so that will end us just slightly earlier on Tuesday afternoon. Here's our schedule. You need to go to the registration and check in, get all your paperwork over at the control center up in the lodge. On Monday morning, we will have the venue open for warm-ups at 9:30. But like we did at time trials, we will be marking the course with lane lines, with flagging. Hopefully the flagging will go up on Sunday, but with lane lines and other signs in the snow. So please be mindful of our management team as we try to get the course set up for the athletes. Opening ceremonies, I believe, will be starting at 11. We ask all of our delegations and our athletes to eat lunch before you come over for the competition. We don't want to be losing any of our competitors who are going to get a late lunch and have them miss their event. So on Monday, we ask you to come over, have lunch before you come over for the competition. We will have a short coaches meeting in the operations building. Just and I apologize for my dog, who's exceedingly hungry and not very thrilled with the dinner that I've already given him. So I apologize for my dog in the background. Short coaches meeting at 4 o'clock or whenever the day is over, right by the control table. On Tuesday, our schedule, please go over to registration if you need to at 8. Any changes, any paperwork, any notifications, please check in with me at the control table on Tuesday morning just to make sure there's no updates, something that you need to be made aware of before the competition starts. Again, we ask that you be mindful of when you go over for lunch. We ask that you not go over to the lodge for lunch until the competition or your competition and your delegation races are over for the day. Most of you, if not all of you, were at time trials last week. This is another map, a little clearer of the whitetail facility. Over down in this area, you can see as you come up the driveway, you'll head down this driveway to the snowshoeing competition. The control area will be up back in this building. I'm not sure if it's going to be in the exact same area it was last weekend, but it's relatively close, and there'll be signage available to point you in the right direction. Basically, this is still whitetail. It's an overview from our drone that we don't have. I'm not sure where we got this picture from, but just another picture of the whitetail resort. The snowshoeing venue. Obviously, you were all there last week. Some things that you will notice if you have not been there for an actual competition. I've lost my cursor. Oh, there it is. What you did not see last weekend is in this area on the other side of the ops building will be our family hospitality tent and our snowshoeing awards area. We are back over in this building. For parking, once again, we ask you to not park in front of the operations building. There are this is still a working resort, and all the whitetail operations folks need to park their vehicles there. There is a shuttle operating from the main area that will drop you off right in front of the building, or if you need to drop off your athletes, please do so and park back in this public parking area. Probably on Monday and Tuesday in the middle of the week, you'll probably be able to park relatively close, especially if it's not a super great skiing day. Just want to go over a little bit about our course layout, the same as it has been. We'll have a common start down here for everything except the relays. The relays will all start since we're not doing 4x400 relays this year, all of our relays, the 4x1s and the 4x2s, will start at the 50-meter mark. We'll go over that briefly. For the 4x100, the first athlete will start at the 50, go the opposite way from all the other races. We'll go from the 50 to a turnaround at the start line and back out to the 50, and this will be the first exchange zone for the 4x1. This athlete will, from exchange zone 1, will go out to the 150-meter mark, which is sort of halfway up the hill for another exchange zone. That athlete will go from the 150-meter mark to a turnaround at the 200-meter mark, which is out here. We'll have a cone. We'll have marking on the course for the directions that the athlete should go. We'll have marshals. So that athlete, number 3, will start here, do a turnaround, and wind up back at 150 meters. And your 4th athlete will go from 150 back down to this mark, which will be the finish line for the 4x100 relays. The 4x2, which will be run on Monday afternoon, same exchange zones, but your athletes will be staged a little bit differently. Athlete number 1, will start at the 50, do a turnaround at this 50, at the start line. Back out here is 100 meters, and to get the 4x2, that athlete will go from the 50-meter mark out to the 150. So your athletes are basically going this direction, turning around, going out to the second exchange zone, and then, oops, I knew I was going to do that. Athlete number 2 will start at 150, do a turnaround that will get him 100 meters and back down to here. So, and the athletes 1 and 3 will be doing the same course, as will athletes 2 and 4. On Monday morning, if you're a little bit confused by this, just come see me, and it's easier to see when you're out on the snow. Just come see me or any of the management team, and we'll explain it and get it a little clear both for you and for your athletes. As I said before, you're welcome to use the competition area for warm-up and practice on Monday and Tuesday. Please just be mindful of the work that we need to do. Staging, it was a little crowded, as it almost always is at time trials last weekend. For the competition, we will have a third bay, so we will have 50% more space than we had at time trials. The third bay, obviously, is closer to the start line, so that's where the staging will be. We'll do the same thing. We'll stage inside and get our athletes in division order. Outside, we'll have chairs for outdoor staging for the athletes to get their shoes on. We'll have hopefully lots of escorts to escort your athletes from staging to the outdoor staging area, to the start line, and then take them from the finish line, wherever it is for that particular division, over to awards. I had another point in my head, and I've since lost it. I'm sure it'll come back to me in a couple of hours. As you'll note when you get the paperwork, the times on the paperwork are real times, not pre-staging times. So if it says 9:30, please be over there by the designated time on the staging sheet. A point that was made in an email from one of the coaches earlier today, coaches will be allowed in the staging area to assist your athletes with their equipment. And it's really important that your athletes get their shoes on correctly in the staging area. If your athlete loses a shoe during the competition, it'll be up to that athlete to get them back on to complete the race. Awards for snowshoeing will be over, as I indicated on the diagram, will be over in on the helipad area, sort of across the parking lot from the operations building. If there is a weather issue, that may be adjusted. As we do in track, if there really shouldn't be any real conflicts, but if there is, if your athlete is needs to be at the start or at staging for a second race that he or she may be doing, and it's sort of a time crunch with getting his or her awards, leave the awards area, do your event, come back, and they'll get their award with full honors. We ask that delegations have someone dedicated to the awards area for meeting your athletes after the presentation, so they can get back into the operations building.
They want to have a delegation. On the person sitting.
Is there a question? No. Okay. The results for snowshoeing, we last year, and I think we'll do the same unless we find a better solution. We posted the results on a whiteboard, and we sort of taped to the soda and candy machine, which should not be a terribly big issue for those of us who want candy or soda, because the last 5 or 6 years they have fully stocked the machines with nothing. So don't worry about missing out on any treats, because they usually have nothing in them. I'm not going to go over the specifics about the snowshoe. These haven't changed. These are Special Olympics rules. Um, for any athletes who, especially for the longer distance or even shorter distances, if your athlete likes to compete with poles, that's their choice. For races longer than 100 meters, for us that will be the 200, 400, 800, and 1600. There'll be a mass start, no lanes. Our command for the start is racers ready and a go. Because of the weather conditions last week, we did not have a horn. We were a little concerned that in the rain it would not work too terribly well. We will have a horn at the competition. We'll also have a flag for the hearing impaired athletes. No change to the DQ rules for this or any other ones. Will go forward as we go forward. 2 false starts is a DQ. This hasn't been an issue. I don't anticipate it. Don't anticipate that it will be. It was not an issue at time trials. Things that you need to be aware of for other issues on the course. 2-minute rule. The athlete must progress 20 meters every 2 minutes for any race that's 100 meters or longer. We will have marshals, not with stopwatches, but using common sense and looking to make sure our athletes are doing 20 meters every couple of minutes. If an athlete falls, loses their equipment, leaves the course, they have 2 minutes to correct that. If your athlete loses a shoe or their shoes, they must get their shoes back onto their feet, and they may not carry them across the finish line. They may not carry them throughout the race more than 3 meters. They need to have, for any distance greater than 3 meters, the shoes need to be on their feet. For the finish line, the race is finished when the athletes, and we tell our finish line timers this, the race is finished when the athlete has his or her torso crosses the finish line. It's not their shoe, it's not their hand, it's not their arm. It's when their torsos cross the finish line, and they need to be wearing both snowshoes when they cross the finish line. Relays. For relays, the baton must pass to the next person within the exchange zone. The exchange zones are 20 meters in length. They'll be clearly marked with food coloring. We will, assuming we have enough, and I'm pretty certain that we do, we'll have the exchange zones in a different color than the lane lines. So it'll be easily distinguished. For the 4x100, we will paint in a fly zone, probably in, which is another 10 meters if you are coaching your athletes to run the relay using a fly zone. We'll have the indicator on the course. What we tell our marshals when we stage for the relays is place the athlete in the center of the exchange zone. We tell the athlete, this is the exchange zone. This is the center of the exchange zone. If you're coaching your athletes to be either in the front or in the back, we will, that will be up to you. We're going to show them the front and the back. We're going to place them in the center, and it'll be up to your athlete to stay there or move to the front or the back, the way they've been coached. As all of you know, or hopefully know, relays are 4 competitors. Any teams with fewer than 4 competitors will have to forfeit. No competitor can do more than 1 leg of a relay. So everybody needs to do a leg. Everybody in the relay needs to do a leg. Our unified relay teams, and we have unified 4x2s, and we have some unified 4x1s. need to be 2 Special Olympic athletes and 2 unified partners. We do not specify which legs anybody runs. That can be changed and adjusted by you. Keep in mind the difficulty of the different legs. Once you get past 100 meters, the 100-meter mark on the course becomes more difficult. The athlete is going up the hill, which is relatively steep, certainly a lot steeper than in the first 100 meters of the race, and that presents one set of difficulties. The athlete who will be doing the turnaround and coming back towards the start line has a steep decline, which presents different sets of difficulties. So you need to get your athletes in the right leg based on their abilities. What we are asking for is preliminary run orders for all the races. If you can email them to me and to Steve Bennett, and our email addresses, I believe, are on a slide towards the end of this deck, by Thursday night. Final run order, if you're going to make any changes for the 4x2s, please make it by 1:30 on Monday afternoon, so we can get those printed and handed out to all our marshals and all our stagers by the time the 4x2s start. And for the 4x1s, please provide those any changes for run orders by the coaches meeting on Monday afternoon. It gets pretty hectic on Tuesday. We don't have anywhere near as much time to get ready because we start at 9:30. And if we have to repaint the course, we'll all be busy. So that's why we're asking for the final orders for the relays for the 4x1s by the coaches meeting on Monday afternoon. After those times, no changes will be accepted except for a medical scratch. In terms of disqualification, what we're generally looking for, or what we're specifically looking for, I'm going to take that back, is improperly overtaking or impeding another competitor. The first, for the 25, the 50s, and the 100s are all in lanes, but even for races where there are no lanes, if an athlete impedes another competitor and our judges and our marshals see that and make note of it, that's grounds for disqualification, which is very similar to preventing another competitor from passing, leaving the course, 2 false starts. And for relays, an improper exchange. One thing I did not mention on the relays, if the baton is dropped, the person who dropped it, if it's the incoming racer who dropped the baton, the person who dropped the baton needs to pick it up and still hand it to the next racer. The second racer or the next racer can't pick up a dropped baton and have that be a good exchange. The rules that we talked about before in terms of 3 meters, and 20-second rule, or 2-minute rules, those are reasons for disqualification. We do have a slide in a little bit about coaching your athletes during the race, where we have some rules against that, but the last point on this slide, receiving physical or verbal assistance at any time after the start, and that involves pacing your athlete or specific coaching. We'll have some guidelines in the later slide, but that is another reason for disqualification. Differently than the track, only a head coach from a delegation may file a protest. We'll have protest forms at the control table. This has been true. This next point, this course layout, is basically been the same since we have been at Whitetail. 5 years, I believe. Maybe this is the 6th year. If there are any changes based on layout or amount of snow. We'll make those, hopefully make those adjustments, at least in our minds, on Sunday when we go out there to set up, and we'll notify everybody on Monday when they come out. As I said before, here are the guidelines and the things that we should and shouldn't do as coaches during the race. I'm not going to read through these. These will be available in the slides that get sent out after the race, after the webinar this evening. Weather. I don't know that cold will be an issue. Hopefully it will. Certainly, hopefully it's colder than it has been, so we get a good compact course with lots of snow. Layers, layers, layers. Specifically, if it's warm, so that you can take off those layers, 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 and your athletes are comfortable. What is important, and we emphasize all the time, is keep your athletes hydrated. Even if it's warm or even if it's cold, your athlete is going to be sweating while they're competing, so it's important to stay hydrated. Like we identified in the diagram earlier, we have our own hospitality tent. This is the third year, at least the second, I'm not sure, maybe the third year of our hospitality tent for families. It's right next to awards. As family members arrive, please feel free to walk over, say hello to Debbie, take advantage of the accoutrement at the hospitality tent, the family hospitality tent. Miscellaneous. I realize this slide, the typing is small. If you have any adjustment to your events, I mean, we're in the process now of divisioning and scheduling. Please get those in as soon as possible. We have it here on the slide by 11 o'clock tonight. Please be mindful of the work that needs to be done to get our divisioning done, especially with other competitions that are happening next week outside of Winter Games. So get them in, any changes by tonight if you can.
Ron, actually that was
yes.
something we missed. That deadline was actually yesterday at noon.
Okay, so I want all of you to jump in your hot tub time machine, go back and make all your adjustments by yesterday. So I apologize for that. That was my mistake in when I made the slide. So there you go. Like I said earlier, be sure to stop at our control center, and our control center obviously is a table in the very first bay, not the staging area. We'll have our computer set up. We'll have someone there. If it's not me, or maybe perhaps Kelly, perhaps Trish, to hand out any information that we have for you if that information was not available at the control center at the main lodge. Earlier I said, take advantage of the shuttle. They will drop you off right at the door. They'll pick you up in the parking lot. Just wave the shuttle driver down. You just need to be mindful of keeping the parking area clear of our vehicles.
Ron,
Tuesday,
I had a comment on that just a moment. Just for folks, that's also, it's not only because the Mountain Ops needs to operate, that's for the safety of our athletes. People are walking back and forth throughout the parking lot, and even if you think you're going to leave your car, you may be leaving or pulling out while people are still walking around, and so we're thinking safety here as well. So please use the main lot.
Okay, thanks, Mike. There will be a brief closing ceremony, not at Snowshoe, because while while we may be finished, Alpine is still going on, so there'll be a brief closing ceremony if you'd like to enjoy that at the conclusion of all the awards over in the Alpine Awards area. And this year, the dance theme, if you did not already know, is Mardi Gras. Please take advantage of Nixle, text messaging communication system, and something else that I missed on this slide, the messages and alerts concerning summer games, which you may not be as totally interested in February, but winter games, and in any other Special Olympics sports-related event. If there's any notifications that we need to get to a lot of people very quickly, Nixle is the way to go. Here's the information on how to subscribe. Also, my SOMD off of www.somd.org. We will have an evaluation survey, which will close on March 25th. And there's a hyperlink there. And once again, I ask everyone, all I know is how accommodating the folks are at the operations building for our snowshoe events. I mean, there's almost nothing that I can ask these guys that they won't try hard to accommodate. So thank them if you see them. They are just very mindful of our athletes and wanting this to be a good competition. In the past, we've had them get carpets out to downhill, so slide, any number of things they do for us. Ask me, and I can pass it on to them. But do, if you see one of them, they're almost always in trips. Thank them for helping us. For your snowshoers who want to go over to Alpine, you can get a spectator walk pass, and this can be obtained over at our family hospitality tent, but only people who sign the waiver can get a ticket. You do not need this for our area. It's just when you're walking over to the Alpine. New slide. For overnight emergency, here's your contact information from me. Will be at the Country Inn and Suites, and with a mobile number, and for Steve Bennett, who apparently will be staying at both the Ramada and the Holiday Inn. But be mindful of this is truly emergencies. They're there to help, but not for for business items that can be taken care of the next day. True emergencies, please contact Mike and/or Steve.
Just for clarification, this is Steve. I will be housed at the Ramada Plaza, but the Holiday Inn Express is just a short walk right beside the Ramada with those properties.
Okay, so you'll be covering both. That makes more sense than you'd be staying with both. So thank you. Check-in at 8 o'clock. It opens at 8 over at the Control Center. Please return any unused tickets to the Control Center by 1 p.m. each day. Although we will be setting up on Sunday for some of the things that we need to get done for Alpine and for Snowshoe, there will be no bids distributed on Sunday. Again, parking regulations, just be mindful for all the reasons that both myself and Mike articulated. Food services. This is a slide that's also being shown to in the head of delegations webinar. Delegation dinner for Winter Games will be hosted at the Ramada Plaza and will be buffet style. The dance will also be at the Ramada Plaza and the same location as the dinner. After your dinner, please be courteous and vacate the tables so that staff can turn the roof, can turn over the room. all the hotels that we've made arrangements with, breakfast will be available for the delegations. And lunches, of course, will be available at the resort. For more information, here are a list of all of our regional sports directors, both myself and Melissa Anger. But if it's not one of those counties listed for Melissa and for myself, please contact Danielle Weddle, who will either get you an answer or contact one of us or Mike or Steve to get you the answer that you need. Oops, and that is the end of the slideshow. So I think we are, so if there's any questions, please feel free. Please feel free now. We're going to try to make, we got a couple of suggestions from Eva earlier today about ways we may be able to improve our staging. We'll look into those, Eva, and incorporate the ones that make sense that are easy to do at this late date.
And Ron,
yep.
Just because I know we got some questions about this past weekend, the very nice outdoor portable laboratory or bathroom will be back for the games. We did not have it at time trials because the time trials last about 3 hours, and it would have cost us over $1,000 to have it there for those 3 hours. It's not cheap. It's certainly worth the expense for winter games. We figured, given that short of a duration for the time trials, that it was not necessary to have it. But we will definitely have that nice, for those of you who were there last year, the nice heated facility available again.
We should put that in the diagram, Mike.
I'm sorry?
We should put that in the diagram.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Any other questions or any questions?
This is Nancy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
The only thing that I noticed previous years is that the volunteers taking the athletes over to awards don't always wait for all 4 of them or 5 of them or whatever. I guess when you give them their instructions, they need to make sure they understand they have to gather them all so they don't get lost on the way.
Good point. We will make that correction. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I can give, if there are no more questions, we can give each of you another 20 minutes back of your evening. I want to thank you all for taking the time this evening to listen in. This slide deck will go out. If there are any further questions, please feel free to email me.
Re-sign in?
Yes, there's a different phone number for
okay.
HOD. Yep, that's all.
Okay.
Ron?
Yes.
This is Vicki Follett, and I had typed a question in. Apparently you didn't see it or it's not showing up on your end. But John wanted me to ask about if part of the unified team falls down during competition, can the unfallen part of the unified team help the fallen member up?
No. Athlete needs to get up on their own. I mean, if they're not racing, they're not, they need to stay within a certain number of meters of each other.
Right.
Not holding hands. As in any competition, if they do, there's no, we haven't, we don't make that accommodation, Vicki. I'm sorry. Don't need to get up.
Ron, there was another question. I'm sorry, I was delinquent, Vicki. I did not have the question window open big enough to see it. But Janet Larimore was asking about why families can't purchase tickets for dinners. It's a space issue, quite frankly. We've moved to the new hotel property knowing that the space for dinner is significantly smaller than what we had at the at Hager Hall at the previous hotel. But we had gotten consistent feedback that just quite honestly, the hotel itself was in deplorable condition, and so we had a compromise. But that's why there's just not space, and so we're going with a ticketed system, and the coaches and chaperones and all that are with the athletes can certainly handle making sure that the athletes eat properly.
Okay.
That said, there are of dinner options around. There's even a very nice restaurant at the Ramada itself that their food is quite good right there that they can go and purchase their own dinner. And there are several eating establishments at the mall, which is in the same complex that the hotels are in as well.
Well, if there are no more questions, there are certainly no more slides.
All
All right,
thank
thanks,
you,
Ron.
You-
Thanks, Mike.
you-
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you. We're just
You are-
do a few more of you.
The delegations you'll need to read.
Thanks a lot.
Steve, can you stay on the line for just a sec?
Sure.